All right. So, hello, Queen. Welcome to the session. So, this is going to be a real life interview session where I'm going to ask you questions like they will ask you in a real interview, and you will be answering those questions like you would in a real interview. So, this is a real interview simulation. First of all, welcome. And are you ready? Let's get started.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, great. Queen, first of all, this role will require a senior Scrum Master. As a senior Scrum Master, you will be facilitating ceremonies for two teams, and you will be managing and overlooking sprint goals for two teams. And what those two teams are doing is basically normal software development on a normal project, and that's what you will be doing in a show. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for that. My name is Queen. I'm a value-driven person. I have a positive approach to resolving problems. I implement change in organizations. So I support teams in their process improvements. I stand as a bridge of communication between the technical team, the stakeholders, and the product owner. So I believe that every organization, businesses, and enterprises have different needs. So I am flexible to fit in. I'm flexible to fit in any situation by constantly inspecting, looking for solution, and adapting to fitting business needs. I also coach my team in the agile methodology and ensuring that we meet our sprint goal in terms of deliverables. I am not only a scrum master to my team, but to the organization at large. So I partner with the product owner and stakeholders I partner with them to organize, to understand the business needs so that together we can all deliver value. I also promote transparency among my teams and the stakeholder by generating reports that meets the business requirement as on the based on the workflow that breaks down the workflow. Sorry about that. Yes, so I have been in this industry for over 6 years. I have diligently carried out my roles and responsibility effectively. I have an opportunity to work with the freshly new teams transitioning from waterfall to agile and scrum environment. So I've also worked with established teams by helping them in their process improvement. So that's basically me and my journey. So my role and responsibilities pretty much centered around helping the teams to facilitate the Scrum ceremonies, helping the teams to remove impediments or any risk that the team might be facing, also helping the team to calculate the velocity and capacity, ensuring that the team meet their sprint goals, or ensuring that we meet our sprint goals, and also collaborating with the product owner to ensure we have a healthy product backlog and constantly keeping the stakeholders in loop on how the work is progressing. Um, as a servant leader, I can wear different hats. I can wear hat of coaching. I can wear hat of mentoring. I can wear hat of supporting. So I kind of do this based on the need of the team. So basically, that's me and my role.
Great, that's fantastic. So it seems like you have a lot of experience in a lot of industries from a whole lot of spheres. You have been in the industry for a very long time, and you seem to know the industry very well. So now tell me, you mentioned that you have dealt with teams going through transformation as well as mature teams. How do you assess the maturity of your team? How do you know that this team is more mature than the other one?
Okay, thank you for that question, Chitan. Yeah, the way I assess the maturity of my team is based on my experience is when my team um can no longer having conflict, they can resolve conflict themselves and they can pull in work from the product backlog, refine it without the help of the product owner. They can resolve problems themselves. They can facilitate the ceremonies themselves, keeping it time boxed and making it purposeful, keeping it time boxed and making it purposeful. They can resolve problems themselves. They can remove impediments. They no longer have conflicts. So this is how I assess and they can also meet their sprint goals without me supporting them or chasing to know what is what and who is doing this and what is on the sprint. Why is this not? So they can actually meet their sprint goal, pulling in work from the product backlog, refining the work without the help of the product owner. So this is the way I've assessed the maturity of my team.
Great. And now talk to me about the composition of your teams. Who is who in your team? How many teams are you currently managing in your current project?
Okay, thank you for that question. Yeah, in my current role, I'm currently managing two Scrum teams, which is one product owner, one QA, four developers, front end and back end, myself, the Scrum Master, same size, two teams.
Great, that's amazing. And what kind of projects are you working on right now?
Oh, okay. Yeah, the project we're working on at the moment is called paying a check without paying us a visit in the bank. So what that means is since the COVID, the reason for this is since the COVID, we're trying to reduce the numbers of people that come into the banking hall. So we're making this application friendly to every user as long as there's network wherever you are. So all you need to do is just to download the app on your phone and then follow the instruction, and then you just scan the barcode on your phone. So making the app more friendly for users as long as there's network wherever you are. That's the product we're currently working on.
So mostly app enhancements.
Yeah. So it's
Mhm.
yeah, we deliver this on the banking app and on the website. Yeah.
And have you worked in other industries as well as compared to financing? Right now you're
Uh,
in banking and finance. Have you ever worked in other industries?
yes, in my previous role was HCL technology. Yeah, I worked with them for 4 years. I was with them for 4 years, and the project I actually worked on in that in my previous role is commercial real estate platform. So what this platform does is to bring both the buyers and the lenders together to communicate. So this was the project I worked on in my previous role, and this project took about 1 year, and yeah, that's it.
Great, great. Now tell me, let's say if your product owner, if your sprint is over, let's say your sprint is over 2 days before it was supposed to be over, and the product owner comes in and says, "Hey, our sprint is over. Scrum Master, I'm going to add more scope. I'm going to add more work to the team's backlog so that the next 2 days that are empty, because the work that they were supposed to do in those 2 days has already been done." What will you do in that situation?
Oh, yes. Now I'm going to take you into the agile values, which is responding to change or responding. Is it responding to change? Yeah, because we respond to change even in the late development. So what I do in this situation, in my experience, when during the sprint planning, what I do is to encourage the team to guide it. I guide the team to commit to 80% of work, leaving 20% for unplanned work. So what that 20% is for the event, and I mean the event, which is the ceremonies, and any new requirement that may likely come into the sprint. So now why do I talk about why did I bring suggest this 20%, leaving 20% for unplanned work? I'll give you a scenario like we have cars, we drive cars, and then we have four tires in our cars. Yeah. So remember, we also have a spare tire in a boat. So this spare tire is for if there's anything that happens, because our tire can actually pick a nail or anything can just happen. So if it doesn't happen, then we pull in more work. So how do I do this? I encourage the teams to commit to 80% of work and leaving 20% for unplanned work. So if we exhaust our 80% of work, finish our 80% of work, and we don't have many new requirements come in, or if we have requirements comes in, how the team will take that is on my shoulder. The first thing I have done in this situation is to look at my team capacity, to look how many people do I have in this team. And then I then inform the team that, okay, now we have a new requirement come in, so how can we take this? And then I encourage the team to do a ad hoc refinement at that time. I bring them together, we do a ad hoc refinement, and we refine the work, and then we pull in into the sprint backlog. But if I don't have enough capacity, or we have exceeded the 20% of work that of unplanned work, we have exceeded that, and then that's when I'll be having a conversation with the product owner to say, okay, I don't have the capacity right now at the moment. So how much work do you think this team can actually do, so that we can all come together and where we talk about it. And that's how I have dealt with this situation. So helping the team, guiding them to commit to 80% work and leaving 20% for unplanned work has actually helped me to not have issues of responding to change in the sprints.
Great. And one thing I really like about you, Queen, as a candidate is that you are mentioning that helping the team. So you are a facilitator, and you're basically playing a perfect role of a Scrum Master, and that's what I love about it. So great. Now tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult team member who didn't see the value in Agile, who was being resistant towards you. How did you handle that situation?
Okay, thank you for that question. Yeah, um, I must tell you that um, change is scary, especially when you're transitioning teams from waterfall to agile and scrum environment, So change is scary. Like, where am I going to? I have no clue. I am comfortable in this environment. So why am I going here? So this is where I come in to stand as a catalyst for the team, helping them to understand the process of where we are going to, the journey of where we are going to, by coaching, by mentoring, by explaining to them the value that this agile brings into the table, the value it brings into the table, and because it helps us to deliver quickly and continuously inspecting, adapting, being transparent, looking at the three with the help of the three artifacts we have in the Scrum, which is the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the increment. So, and at the end of the sprint, we will be able to um sorry to demonstrate, to do the demo to the stakeholders, and then we get feedback that will help us to inspect and adapt, and then we then move into the retrospective to continuously see, because that's a meeting that helps us to inspect and adapt. So in this situation, what I have done in this situation you just talked about is, I had the team member in my previous role that there was resistance. He didn't see any value of, why should I come to daily stand up? And when I find out I had to have a catch up with her, she said, I think I should be doing my work with that 15 minutes, because I feel that because I've actually attended it, because the same thing, what we talked about yesterday, what we did, what we are doing today, and if there's any impediment. So I feel this is just like a waste of time to me. I quite understood, because she didn't really understand the value of agile, the value that agile brings to the table. So that's when I had to come close to her. I explained better to her. I said, look, coming to this, every of these ceremonies have their values and their purpose. So if we are winning, we are winning together. If we are failing, we are failing together. I quite understand you want to work. You want to take the 15 minutes to do your work, but you don't have impediment. But there's someone who probably will have an impediment or any risk that you can help, and then that will give you opportunity to outshine yourself. So that will give you an opportunity to outshine yourself, be able to help someone. So, and that's a great value to you. So that's why I was able to convince her by explaining the values and the process and what these ceremonies are for to her. So, and then she had a change of mind. So gradually I gave her baby steps, and gradually, I brought her in. That's how I was able to handle that situation.
Great. Now, talk to me about user story. So, how do you make sure that the user stories in your sprint are, are matching? What criteria do you use to make sure that user stories are proper? And talk to me about user stories in general.
Yeah, user story. Oh, the time. I'm just okay.
So talk to me about the backlog refinement process, user stories, and refinement in general.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that question. Backlog refinement session is not part of the meeting in the ceremonies, but it's just an important meeting that where the Scrum teams come together to discuss about the work that is going into the next sprint, which are the user stories. So because where the when the product owner get the requirement from the stakeholders, so I facilitate that backlog refinement session and ensure that the team have clear understanding. There's clarification between the technical team and the product owner to ensure that every story meets definition of ready. Because the user story, they are the small piece of work that represents some value of an end user. And this can completed within a sprint, which is a two-week sprint. So how I do this is to facilitate and then encourage the team to ask questions so that we don't get in the sprint and we start facing some risk, you know. So and ensure that every story meets definition of ready. How do I do this? I ensure that I'm using the invest criteria, ensure that the story is independent on its own, yeah, and then the story is negotiable. So the story is negotiable and the story is estimable. No, the story is valuable, and then the story is estimable. The story is small enough to fit into a sprint, to go into a sprint, and then the story is testable. So I ensure, and then there's a clear definition, and it meets the user's criteria, yeah. And then the story is estimable, is testable, and it meets the definition of ready. So those are I use invest criteria in that backlog refinement to ensure that every story meets definition of ready. So this is how I facilitate it, ensure that the technical team and the product owner are on the same page. So this is what backlog refinement is, and um, how I guide my team to ensure that there's clarification between the technical team and the product owner.
Okay, great. Now talk to me about retrospective. What did you learn in your last retrospective, and how do you conduct your retrospectives in general? So talk to me about your retrospective. What did you learn from your last retrospective, and how are your retrospectives in general?
Okay, thank you for that question, Chitan. Um, what is retrospective? Retrospective is one of the ceremonies or events that happens in the sprint, and is the last day of the sprint that this meeting holds. So immediately after the review, I'm sorry, immediately after the demo, we jump into the retrospective. So I facilitate these ceremonies, and this is the ceremony. This is one of the ceremony that I really participate in. So it gives me an opportunity to interact with the team, and then we come together to look at what happened in the sprint, what didn't go well in the sprint, how can we come together to deliberate and then to improve on this so that it does not occur in the next sprint. So what I learned in my last sprint was the team and the product owner doesn't come to the daily stand up because like I said, this daily stand up is a ceremony for where the team has been transparent to talk about what what they did yesterday, what they are doing today, and what they will be if there's any risk. So there was a time there was a risk that we needed the product owner to probably give us a clarification. So the product owner was not available. So during my last retrospective, the team talked about it that we need the product owner to be coming to the retrospective. So I noted that down in the read log, And then I had a conversation with the product owner to discuss that, okay, this was the risk that we faced during the sprint. So we actually needed you. However, I was able to manage that risk, but it is better. I think it's good for you to always come into the to our daily stand-up. So this was how I was able to resolve that, because everything that we need to talk or decide to deliberate on has to happen in retrospective.
I think so. My 2 cents. I think the answer is fantastic. You covered all the points, but having a product owner not present in the daily stand-up, I don't think you can include it as a risk. It might be, it might be dependency, or not even dependency. It might be some kind of a impediment in some sense, but I don't think it's like a risk unless it get to an extent where the product owner is completely like off the hook. He or she doesn't show up at all. But you mentioned raid log, so that was a good point. But I don't think this would be enough for to be entered into a raid log yet. Maybe if it's to get to an extent where it's too much, then it might. But overall, you covered the topic really well. Okay, now my next question is, give an example. How would you deal with a difficult stakeholder?
Okay, thank you for that question. Yeah, in my experience, and for any organization I join, the first thing I do is to build relationship with the stakeholders, the product owner, and the technical team. Because why do I build this relationship? It's because to have a working agreement, to understand the needs of everyone and to understand them as human. So when we're talking about difficult people, I think difficult is just okay, we haven't talked about this thing. We haven't talked about this thing. We haven't reached an agreement. So I don't see people as difficult unless they said they don't want to talk about it. So if we have a table to talk about this and then we resolve it. So I don't see people as difficult. So I have managed this situation of what you call a difficult stakeholder was there was a time because stakeholders, they want to see value, they want to get value. What are you people doing? What they need to get value. So if you are constantly like if I'm constantly keeping them in loop on how the work is progressing, I haven't really had a situation where I'll say a stakeholder is difficult, because I carry them along from start to finish. So I carry them along. So I'll give you a scenario of where I had a little do I say it's a kind of stress, yeah. So there was a time a stakeholder was actually coming into the daily stand-up. And then I observed that my teams weren't really talking because they felt they were being watched, and they weren't communicating, they weren't transparent anymore. So I note this. So during the retrospective, they talked about it, that they don't feel comfortable, even me, because I know I have to shield my team from any external distraction, anything that will make them feel, oh, we are being watched, we are not safe. So I always make sure that I wear my hat to protect them. I shield them from anything that will distract them. So when I started observing this, because it was a new team I actually joined, so I had a catch up with the stakeholder and ask, I just in a friendly conversation that in my experience and where I'm coming from, daily stand-up is for the technical team to come together, because it's the time box of 15 minutes. So it's for the team to be transparent, to be able to talk about what they are doing in the sprint, if there's any risk. So it's time box. So I know I quite appreciate you coming in there, but they feel that I observe my observation. I feel my team are not being transparent. They don't say anything. So rather, we just have all this conversation that we're supposed to talk about in the sprint daily stand up. So the response I got from him was, he just need us to pull our weight. He needs us to pull our weight. He just needs us to deliver. So I then said, okay, that's not a problem. Is this just a new team I joined? So I am going to do my best. I promised I was going to do my best, which of course I did. How did I do this? Was constantly at the end of every sprint meeting, our sprint. So what I do is to convey information, what the team has committed to. I convey the information to him. I say, okay, this is what we have committed to. This is what you will be expecting at the end of the sprint. And also, I ask, okay, because based on my experience, there are times we send emails to stakeholders and it takes a longer time for us to receive the emails back. So I suggested to add him on the communication channel, which is the Teams channel, so that there will be more collaboration between them and the between him and the technical team, so that if they have any question to ask, and so that they can be asking him directly instead of waiting for email for a longer time. And also, I was generating reports showing him the way the work was burning down on the board. So that's how I was able to resolve this. And he was happy about it. And then I told him, I said, yeah, I'm happy for you to, of course, because there's one event that you have to come to, which is the review. So I'm happy for you to come there. And I'm also happy for you to ask me any question directly or ask the product owner. This was how I was able to manage that situation by
Great.
coming into agreement. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I liked is the transparency, the maintaining and building the transparency. That's the part I love the most. Now, tell me about a time. How have you, in some other ways, how you have built transparency from like like how have you built transparency as in terms of the roadmap, like the product roadmap? How do you build transparency when from upwards, like stakeholders, all the way down to the team? So tell me about a time how you have managed transparency or a transparency on a project roadmap or transparency on just the business vision in technical team as well as the stakeholders' eyes. How have you managed those expectations between the technical team and the stakeholders in your project?
Okay, thank you for that question. So the way I've managed transparency between the technical team and the stakeholders is to stand as a bridge of communication between the technical teams and the stakeholder to ensure that there is clarification and the technical team understand the sprint goal, because that's the major part. Like this, we have a sprint goal, it is clear, it is well understood, we can deliver this within in the sprint without having trouble. So I also, the way I do this way is by suggesting to the stakeholders by adding them on the communication channel, which is the Teams channel. Also showing them reports, giving them reports, showing them the way the work is going, burning down in on the board. So also ensuring that encouraging the team to ask questions from directly from the stakeholders, so that because we've already had them on the Teams channel, communication channel, which is the Teams channel. We've already had them on the Teams channel, so there's more collaboration between the technical team and the stakeholders. So this was how I was able to bring up transparency between my technical team and the stakeholders.
Great, that's fantastic. So that was a great answer. Now, tell me what questions you have for me.
Okay. Thank you for the drilling.
Yes.
Yeah, what I want to ask, this role that I've been interviewed for, what are your expectations from me?
Yeah. So expectations are someone who understands the agile process really well, someone who has experience with managing multiple teams, multiple projects in multiple sectors, and someone who has a passion for people and the process in general. We are looking for making our teams more efficient, and we are looking for making our process better, handle our backlog better. So that those are our expectations from the person in this role.
Okay, thank you. So, what are the current challenges the team are facing within the organization, if I may ask?
Yeah. Some of the challenges that we are facing right now is our backlog health. So we are suffering with our backlog health. We have a lot of backlog items. There is no proper refinement. There is no prioritization. There is no ordering. So everything is all over the place. So we need someone who can come in and who can kind of facilitate those meetings to help us prioritize and order our backlog so that we can, have a properly defined roadmap and work along those lines.
Okay, so basically those are the questions I have. So I'm waiting for the second stage of interview.
Thank you so much, Queen. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.